Look at Me is a stunning portrait of the aphorism, hurt people, hurt people. Here's my review of the XXXTentacion documentary on Hulu, Look at Me. This documentary begs the question, who is deserving of redemption? XXXTentacion's birth name was Jahseh Onfroy. He exploded on the scene with so much talent and grit, and a gift that reached so many encumbered and shackled with emotional grief and depression. He related to them on such a deep level with his music and his social media confessionals and commentary, an outlet that so many needed. The doc covers his childhood from 10 years old when his dad went to prison. He admitted that he began hating himself, so crushing, and spiraled into a depressive state. Schools would throw him out, which doesn't help without figuring out the nucleus of what was going on inside of him. And it doesn't help. It doesn't help when you don't find the root causes of why kids are acting out or when they have behavioral issues and when schools just throw them away. At 13, he was diagnosed with bipolar depression, but never medicated. He eventually moved in with his grandmother, got caught up with some kids in the neighborhood, was thrown into juvie for home invasions and for getting into trouble. But he used hip hop as an outlet for his deep emotional pain. Out the gate, he blew up on SoundCloud and began performing at live shows with a crew he formulated called Members Only. So he did have a support net. The crowds would go crazy for him and his lyrics because his music was deep and relatable and he seemed approachable. He eventually met up with a porn filmmaker who became his manager and gave him a place to stay. And this was sort of a hub where he was free to express himself and express his art. And soon enough, he got involved with a girl named Geneva with similar emotional issues. She didn't really have a home to call her own, and after a while, she moved in with him. It was toxic and abusive and ended with him going to jail. When you see the pictures of her face, how abused it was, I mean, it's really crushing. He spent 6 months in jail before he was released on bond, and Florida was ready to throw the hammer at him, no different than the schools he was thrown out of. He would be facing 20 years in jail right before he died. He denied the abuse, and his throngs of fans attacked Geneva online, bullying her, sending her into an even more depressive state. It's very, very sad. And he was beginning to turn the corner and blanketly apologized, never publicly admitting the abuse, mainly because the case was ongoing, and again, he was facing 20 years in prison. Like, these were some really serious charges. Geneva filed a motion to have the case dismissed, but the prosecutors refused to dismiss this case. Despite all of the emotional pain he suffered, X got better at his craft, infusing screamo, rock, R&B, hip-hop into his music. He was offered a deal worth millions from a major label, but rolled the dice on himself and his career so that he could own his masters. This young man was intellectually brilliant, he was talented, he was gifted, but he was troubled. from all of the trauma that he suffered as a child. At one point, he admitted that he'd never see the age of 21. It's gut-wrenching. Days before his trial, he was murdered in front of a bike shop. He was 20 years old. XXXTentacion was screaming for help, begging for peace, searching for his true identity, proving that he was worthy of love, desperate to be understood, and pleading for redemption. You could hear it in his social media diaries and confessionals and his lives, and you can hear it in his music. This doc was unafraid to show how broken and battered this young man was. By the end of this documentary, Jahseh's mom apologized to Geneva for her son's abuse. This documentary is an eye-opener into the origins of trauma, toxicity, and abuse, and how these behavioral patterns inevitably manifest in adult relationships. And a stunning portrait of depression. Look at Me is now streaming on Hulu.